Warhammer Rogue Trader Part 4. Lord Captain, sorry to disturb you. It's pandemonium outside the bridge gate. One of the officers seems to be demanding an audience with you in person. I think I hear Master Wersarian's voice in any case. I wanted to warn you in advance. Alright, who wants to talk? Who's interrupting me? This is not the conduct of an officer. There are the antics of a highborn brat out on a lark. Explain yourself, Lieutenant. I apologize, sir, but I must speak to the Lord Captain. Very well, Lieutenant. You may address the Lord Captain, not least because I have already seen fit to disturb her. Your unauthorized appearance on the bridge and display of belligerence towards a higher-ranking officer will be logged on your personal file without delay. Lord Captain, Lieutenant Avrila Vet. Permission to speak. False lines. On a matter of extreme importance and urgency. Lieutenant, you have 1 minute to state your business. Yes, Lord Captain. This is no punishment as you wish, but all that matters is you hear me out. This matter cannot wait. Any minute now, an assault unit will be dispatched to the lower decks on orders to crush the workers' strike by any means necessary. But I am convinced that this step is unwarranted, and that the crisis itself was provoked by the actions of one of the senior officers. That's a skeptical huff. Lord Captain, I urge you to investigate the actions of Seneschal Wersarian and to intervene in what's happening in the lower decks, because very soon we'll have a mutiny or a massacre on our hands. She clearly have been preparing to save them for some time. There's an insurrection in the making aboard my ship and no one has informed me. I would not deem it a problem worthy of Rogue Trader's attention. The lower decks, as it so happens, are in revolt. 30-some years ago, we even had a revolutionary leader rise up who dared to establish workers' rule across the entire ship. It took a month to restore order, but even 8 years later, we are still battling rumors that the hero had survived his execution and was on the verge of gathering people to fight against tyranny once more. Needless to say, the rumors were baseless. As for the current situation, we have sufficient enforcers to deal with it. But on this ship, the word of the Lord Captain carries more weight than a salvo from 100 bolters, and I'm sure that the Rogue Trader addresses the malcontents directly, she will quell the unrest. I dread to think what problem you will disturb the Rogue Trader with next. Perhaps you will ask the Lord Captain to break up brawls in the mess room? I've already given you means to resolve this problem, you simply need to use them. If it may, your ladyship, sending a hit squad to crush the rebellion is a means of ignoring the people. Ignoring the problem, not solving it. How did this all start? The situation could boil over at any minute, so I'll give you the condensed version. It all began when the enforcers found a cultist amulet on the body of someone who'd been killed in a drunken brawl. We reported it up to the chain immediately, arranging for a cleansing rite to be performed and opening an investigation. No heretics have been found alive, but the search has brought tension between enforcers and workers to a head. Seneschal Wersarian coming to this. I shall explain. I beg you to hurry, time is running out. Abelard, what do you have to say to all this? I see no need to add anything. I acted within the remit of my authority, guided exclusively by the best interest of your protectorate and your personal safety. If you should confirm the rectitude of my actions for yourself, I have no objections. For my part, I urge the Lord Captain to go to the lower decks, stop the assault unit, and speak directly to the people. You will see that they are not lying or harboring heretics. That way you will stop uprisings before it begins. What is Depot 4? The poorest sector on the lower decks is home to clans of general laborers, and they are not as valuable to the ship as the families who have served the specialized system for generations. They are an easily replaceable resource, and one which is now more beside giving succor to cultists and minions of the arch-enemy. Depot 4 is poor and troubled, but at worst that means drunken fights and illegal rot-gut brewing. We have handled the workers of Depot 4 in the past. We would have done so again if the crackdown on Depot 4 hadn't been so harsh. And another important point to bear in mind, the problem is not limited to this sector. It is located on one of the most populated lower decks, and everything that happens there has a knock-on effect on all neighboring sectors. I should trust him, but I need to know. I want to know what would happen, right? Oh, Seneschal is gonna feel butthurt. The realm preserve you, Lord Captain. I thank you for your support. He grits his teeth. An enterprise bordering on sophomoric, but please yourself, Lord Captain. However, I categorically insist I escort you. With greetings, your graces. Hey, it's Werzian. Take that, scum! Oh shit. I would have had them killed. Abelard reflexively wipes the sweat from his brow in a startlingly human gesture, and a telling one. A rare moment where he allows his age and awareness to show through his armor-like veneer of self-assurance. The lower decks are a source of endless problems. Sometimes I dearly regret that we cannot replace all the locals with servitors. Their disrespect to senior officer. They would not have the chance to express such disrespect if we were not here, and if the situation had been dealt with by relevant officers. It is a junior officer's worst failing to pass problems up the chain of command. I have never been able to abide it. I shall say it again. It was a mistake to come here on Lieutenant Vent's whim, Lord Captain. I must admit that the lieutenant is by no means the worst material for an officer. For the name of Tara, the girl is the same age as my eldest great-granddaughter, and she has the gall to tell me how to manage the lower decks and hunt down cultists. It will be another 20 years at least before she can be trusted to act without oversight. They were shouting your name. Of course they were. The organization of the daily routine life of the ship rests upon my shoulders. The mountain of challenges and problems which I endeavor to insulate you, Lord Captain. The situation on the lower decks has been a cause of concern, and I have intervened personally on more than one occasion. That must be why they remember me. They do not know your face. To them you are akin to a creature of legend, one who has stood on the steps of the Golden Throne. No less. Whereas I am a man whose name is attached to every order docking rations or lowering a base heating. Alright, let's keep moving. Oh. The sounds of a heated discussion reverberate through the ship's bays. Lieutenant Avrila Vent of the Ships and Forces is barring the path of a heavily built assault unit officer. And judging by the expression and tone, the standoff has dragged on for some time already and has now reached a boiling point. I have my orders to put an end to the unrest and purge this sector. You can take your orders and shove them. It is my deck, my sector. There are only 3 people who can waltz in here without permission. The first officer, the rogue trader, and the Emperor himself. So not all my lessons fall on deaf ears. Your ladyship, what's the situation? Your ladyship, my people have locked down the bay where the strikers are, including their leaders. We have the situation under control as far as resources allow. The people are getting desperate, clearly. They saw the assault unit and decided they had nothing left to lose. I mean, I apologize, Lord Captain. It is outrageous. I'm sure the people simply don't recognize you. It wouldn't have occurred otherwise. We would deal with them once the current situation is resolved. Is that all you have to say? Forgive me, Lord Captain. I will take steps to ensure that such a thing does not happen again. Alright, let's talk to the strikers. Right you are, Lord Captain. Allow me to wish you good luck. A dozen pairs of eyes stare apprehensively at you. The people before you are typical inhabitants of the lower decks. You take in their simple clothes, crude weapons, and faces that display varying levels of mutation. From the barely discernible to the strange to the outright grotesque. Sad. A whisper passes through the crowd and you detect a mixture of fear, astonishment, and joy in the reactions. Finally, 3 people break apart from the crowd. An elderly woman and 2 men. These must be the leaders. They bow clumsily before you. Lord Captain, you have come down to us. Tell me what is troubling you, why are you striking? That's news to us, your ladyship. All we're doing is asking questions, saying what we think. Shut up, Rivet, snaps the old woman who turns her hostile dark eyes on you. Here's the deal, your ladyship. Your damned enforcers are all over us down here. They say they're looking for cultists. One wrong word and they're reaching for their batons. If they want to punish someone, they turn off the heating to the whole bay for a week at a time, so we get sick and freeze. In my clan, 2 little ones died from inflammation in their lungs, all because of those enforcers. Old woman spits on the floor and rubs the spittle with the toes of her worn-out shoe. Regenda does not interrupt the work as we see the sadness well in her eyes when the children's death are mentioned. She quietly whispers a requiem prayer and makes a sign over herself. It's all true. Vent is the only enforcer officer who stood up for us. It's clear as day who had a mother from the lower decks, and who grew up amidships and has no fellow feeling towards us. The grim man with scarred face throws up his arms. Your ladyship, we're no villains here. We're honest workers, your servants. We've plotted no disorder. We went on strike openly, and now we've got guns pointed at us. All we're doing is asking to be allowed to work in peace, without being harassed. A cultist amulet, what's that? The Q god they found on the dead drunkard? If it was something evil or forbidden, we sure didn't know. The enforcers just said they were looking for heretics among us, and anyone obstructing their investigation would be punished. But how could there be heretics here? We know our own people. There have been no new faces around. Definitely not, and if there were, we'd be the first to report them. And as for this amulet or whatever it is, they took it off the dead body. There are no cultists still breathing in our sector, that's for sure. But when that fight broke out, some enterprising folks looted the bodies. The boots they came back with. Nobody's ever tread these decks in boots so fine, I can tell you that. Seems to me these cultists have better commanders than us. Oh yeah, those boots were really fine. There was no harm in taking them, right? As for the amulet, it must have been pocketed by someone who didn't know any better. We don't need any amulets around here. We all worship the Emperor. And when we're working, we bow down before the machine spirits of the large and small transformers and the servo motor. The same way my grandfather was taught 100 years ago by a tech priest who came calling. Believe us, your ladyship. We are people of faith. Naive children. Weren't you taught from an early age about the dangers of the arch-enemy's creations? Weren't you warned that any unfamiliar object could be one of them? We were told, holy sister, but it was long ago. The last time we saw a confessor in our sector, it was just after I'd had my third little one. That is regrettable, but you cannot lay the burden of leading a righteous life on the shoulders of the Holy Fathers. Who will you blame when beasts crawl out of those amulets you stole from the heretics? The Holy Father who was not there, or the scavengers who brought evil down on himself and his neighbors? Abelard, do you have anything to add? I authorize the use of all necessary measures to locate Chaos worshippers hiding in this sector. The specific steps taken by officers were not reported to me. He frowns, disgruntled at having to explain himself at the workers' presence. Nevertheless, I am certain that their actions were justified. Cultists are no drunken stevedores. They are the enemy and a threat to the ship. Neutralizing them demands decisive action. We were attacked, how do you explain that? Here's an explanation for you. The people have been pushed to their limit and now they're lashing out. As if we don't know why those top decks units are being sent down here. Like that one there that the lieutenant won't let pass. Our clans are all inside the bays that have sealed off, but the lower decks are big. I'm sure there are some people who've had just about enough. We're getting it from all sides. Soldiers have encircled the ones who've risen up. A death squad have just arrived. It's no wonder folks are lashing out. The words seem sincere. The body language and the glances traded between them reveal that the news of the attack has shocked them. What changes do you want? Would you look at this? The exalted Lord Captain himself asking us to build rats what we want. Well, here's what. We want you to rein in your damned enforcers, to quit turning off the heat, and to stop battering everything that moves. No, that's not it. We want the enforcers gone from here. We want to be armed. Give us arms and we'll govern ourselves. We'll defend ourselves if these cultists do show their face. I've been the leader of my clan for 20 years. Getting rid of these club-wielding thugs can only improve things around here. You've gone too far, old Nan. They'll never let the maggots on the lower decks live without the enforcers breathing down on their necks. They probably won't even insist on enforcers on the upper decks too. As for weapons, what do we need them for? But for the first days out, we'll have someone shooting their neighbor out of stupidity or drunkenness. We don't need that. And the forces stop hassling us, that'll be enough. In return, we'll find the scavengers who robbed the cultists' bodies and we'll talk to them. One lower decker to another. If there are any more of these damn amulets about, we'll hand them over to the enforcers ourselves. Speak for yourself and your clan. I'll speak for me and mine. I don't want empty gestures, I want real change. They'll promise us the world now, but as soon as the Anointed One turns the back, these brews will be on us even harder than before, all because we dared to speak out. Tall worker's eyes start between two arguing leaders. Every few seconds, he opens his mouth as if planning to agree, but each time he falls silent, simply making a few vague noises of approval. Thoughts, Abelard. Abelard. A story about going scavenging for boots and accidentally picking up heretical amulet doesn't convince me. These people were moments away from rebelling and possibly becoming minions of the archenemy. We must not give them what they want, even if they did acquire something innocently, purely out of their own stupidity. That does not mean they are not tainted with corruption. What begins as petty thievery can turn into a far graver problem. I've seen it before. In my second war, there was a sergeant in the Imperial Guard regiment that was stationed nearby. The sergeant took an ordinary pocket knife from the body of a heretic, and his whole unit lost their lives for it. When they finally managed to break into the barracks, they found not a single survivor. Only the pocket knife, which had grown through all the rows of beds like a metal choking vine. So when it comes to scavengers, malcontents, strikers, or whatever they'll turn into next, my verdict is simple. Give them no quarter. Coercion. The tall worker they call Rivet shrugs and casts a sidelong look at the old woman. Old Nan, listen. Lord Captain herself has come down to us and is offering concessions. And I don't know a single person in the whole of Depot 4 who's ever stood next to Rogue Trader. Let alone talk to them. Back down. Now's not the time for you to be a stubborn old crone. Listen to us, old Nan. The 3 clans of Depot 4 ought to act as one. We've made up our minds. It's your turn to decide. Don't ask them to disband the enforcers or give us weapons. We don't need any of that. The old woman hisses in dissatisfaction. You two are ganging up on me. Is that it? So brave you are against an old woman. But I'll shut up. I will. Indeed. I won't go against 2 clan leaders on my own. If you want to make peace with the enforcers, make your peace. That's great. Just fantastic, Lord Captain. We're all agreed. Then it's decided the persecution will stop, and I will expect you to assist in locating any remaining evidence or weapons left by the cultists. Your ladyship, thank you. You have not abandoned us lower deckers. You came yourself and settled everything. I'll tell my grandchildren about this. Of course, your ladyship. We'll root out any nasty business faster than any enforcer, and we'll leave no stone unturned. Okay. Oh. Stopping unexpectedly, Abelard imperiously dismissed the unit to stand at a distance, addresses your other companion, saying, I have an urgent matter to discuss with the Lord Captain. Please give us a moment. Ah, is he mad at me? The last vestige of restraint vanished. Well, are you pleased with your investigation, Lord Captain? You kowtowed to the disloyal rabble. You believed their lies and showed them leniency. Next time a ship is attacked by cultists, that rabble will welcome them with open arms and allow them to wreak whatever havoc they like, because they see you as a weak leader. Is that how you see your future at the helm of the Von Valencia's protectorate? Don't talk to me in that tone. I am obliged to speak thus. Who else can point out your errors and offer you counsel? Let's talk about your role in all this. Would have handled the situation myself had you not decided to intervene. Remember Lord Captain Theodora, do you think she ever set one slippered foot on the lower decks? No, she did not. Some matters were left to myself and the junior officers while she dedicated herself to her grand designs for the protectorate, as any true strategist and rogue trader ought. I commend your decisiveness, but I am uncomfortable with introducing new protocols in the midst of a crisis. I lost my temper, Lord Captain. I believe I ought to explain myself. The prosperity of the Von Valencia's protector is not just an empty phrase to me. I left the Imperial Navy for a chance to see it flourish. It was the most momentous decision of my life. I did it because I saw in Lord Captain Theodora's deeds the sign of true greatness. Rogue traders do not simply forge new routes and capture worlds. They create order out of anarchy. They create impulse. That creative impulse was entirely lacking during my time in the military. So I left everything behind I had known, everything my family had known. I come from a long line of officers, and I embarked upon this incredibly reckless venture. Lord Captain Theodora entrusted me with all concerns she had no time for. She would go off on her flagship for long periods, to distant frontiers, on scouting voyages, and the advancement of the entire protectorate rested on my shoulders. And then suddenly, everything that had been built over years and years began to quake, rattling like flimsy hanger on a seismically active world. One of the senior officers betrayed us all. The rogue trader was killed, and who knows what is happening on the planets. I tell you this honestly, without fear of appearing weak. All this has come as a grievous blow to me. I am not panicking or grieving because I cannot allow myself to panic or grieve. I am duty-bound to aid the new rogue trader, to aid you. To find your footing as quickly as possible, and to do that, I must insulate you from problems that, in the past, have been dealt with by tried and tested procedures set on ship's regulations. Procedures that were established long ago, now function smoothly for decades, cannot be deemed excess to requirements. Yes, Lord Captain. After a moment's silence, he adds, looking at you with interest. Your resolve is admirable and demonstrates long leadership. I shall remember this moment should my old habits ever begin to creep back again. Now please let us leave the lower decks. If the rogue trader desires to stretch her legs, there are far more suitable places. Alright, moving on.